Hello everybody, welcome back to some more Balatro, and today I wanted to answer the question, what makes a good deck? Now, what I specifically mean by this is I want to be talking about all of these different decks that you can select at the beginning of your run. What makes them good, what makes them bad, and which deck should you play? Now, before we get started here, I just want to say if you like what you see here, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I try to upload as much Balatro content as I can, so gotta ring that notification bell if you want to see what's coming up next. But now that I got that out of the way, let's talk Balatro decks. So, the first thing I want to talk about in regards to the decks you can play in Balatro is what exactly makes a deck good, right? There's a lot of different decks here and they have their own unique abilities, right? And some of them even have gimmicks, like the Plasma deck here. But in general, I would say there are two main things to look out for when determining whether or not a deck is good. The first thing is whether or not it can help you generate money. I don't know if you've heard, but the yellow deck is absolutely busted. I mean, this deck is just so good. And literally all it does is you start the game with an extra $10. It seems so simple, but it's just so effective. Having the extra money to get the ball rolling, so to speak, right? You get an extra $2 in interest. It allows you to generate more money because the more money you have, the more money you make in this game. And just being able to not have to worry about saving your money for the first couple of blinds, and you can just immediately start picking up cards and jokers, or for instance, you could just start picking up tarot packs right away, and then maybe you can run into Judgment or just something that can really help you get started. The yellow deck is unmatched when it comes to that money generation, and it's just so good because of it. You can also see this with the green deck as well. It's a little bit more obtuse of a money generation effect relating to your hands and discards and not your interests. It's more of like just a different way to play the game. I actually really like this deck. I think it's pretty fun. And you can also consider the Anaglyph deck as a pseudo money generation deck. Thanks to all of the double tags you'll be getting, you can use those on money generating skips to really get a jump start on the run, especially if you reset a lot in the beginning. But other than money generation, there's also the issue of consistency. Whether or not a deck helps you be consistent with your runs, that is going to be the second main factor in whether or not a deck is good. Going back to the yellow deck, I would also say this helps you get more consistent runs because you have the economy to reroll, to get jokers, to buy those packs. So the yellow deck does both. You get money, and then because you have money, you have consistency, right? Another deck that I think we all know and love, the checkered deck here. This would be the ultimate consistency deck, right? It basically decides your hands for you by giving you 26 spades and 26 hearts. It's begging you to play flush and flush house and flush 5, right? Because it's just doing all of the hard work for you. And because of that, it makes it a really good deck. Another one that I think would be really consistent actually is the red deck. Having that extra discard is really useful, and it may not be as impactful as, the checkered deck. I do think it helps with your consistency, and it's a really good starter deck that I think is a good deck to get used to playing, as it really helps you out with your runs. You can also consider the abandoned deck as a good consistency deck, because of the removal of face cards simplifies the game plan. It allows those number cards to show up more, and it's overall just, in my opinion, an underrated deck to try out for sure. So yeah, money and consistency, those are the two main things we're going to be looking at when we want to determine whether or not a deck is good. But there's also one other thing. I glanced upon it earlier, and that is the gimmicks, right? Because then you have stuff like the Plasma deck, where you're balancing your chips and molds when calculating score, but you have 2 times the base blind side. It's just strange. It's different. It's hard to compare something like the Plasma deck to, say, the red deck, just because it plays so fundamentally different, right? I do think this deck is good, mind you. You just have to alter the way you would approach the game a little bit, right? Chip generators become much more valuable, in my opinion, just because they can reach a lot higher numbers a lot quicker, and when you're balancing chips and molt, getting a really high number on something is important because then you're making that middle point between your two calculations here that much bigger. But yeah, so money generation, consistency, and gimmicks, right? That's what's going to make a deck good in Balatro. But what decks are bad in Balatro? Well, that's a difficult question, because in my opinion, none of the decks are exclusively bad. There are decks, in my opinion, that are worse than others, but none of them that are unusable. I think the one that, excuse me, the one that most people have the most amount of trouble with would probably be the Zodiac deck. And I actually originally considered this to be the worst deck in the game. Almost exclusively the only bad deck. But having played through it a little bit, and also looking at the intricacies of how all these vouchers work and all of that, I've decided that I don't think the Zodiac deck is so bad that it's worthy of its own video on why it's the worst deck, which is actually what this was originally supposed to be. Because the Zodiac deck does 3 things, right? You get 2 times more tarot cards, 2 times more planet cards, and you get overstock, right? So what people may originally think when approaching this deck is you think, well, I'm not going to be getting any more Joker cards. I'm only going to be getting tarot and planet cards. So how can I even get the ball rolling when I can't even pick up any of those most important cards needed for high scoring? Well, that's not exactly how the Zodiac deck works, because you see, tarot cards and planet cards and Joker cards and all that, they have a weight attached to them. And the weight sort of determines how frequently something shows up in the shop. And I could get into all of the hyper specifics on how these actually affect all of that, but to put it simply, you're not going to be running into fewer Joker cards. You're just going to be adjusting the weight of the tarot and planet cards, so there are going to be showing up more, but it's not like they're taking away from the Joker cards. They're just going to be showing up more in your shop that you can then buy and have in your consumable slot, if that makes sense. You're still going to be running into the Joker cards, and with overstock available, getting more value out of your rerolls, it's not bad, you know. It's it's just tricky because you have to play it differently, right? And I don't think any other deck sort of plays the same as the Zodiac deck. I think a lot of people who play this just they don't see what exactly is happening here, and they may not understand how to play it, and so they therefore think it's bad. But I just think it's different, right? And that's what I wanted to talk about with this video, is that every deck in its own right is good and different. So there's no bad deck in Balatro. If you want to take anything away from my rambling on in this video, I don't think there's a bad deck in Balatro. I do think there are decks that are better than others. I think the yellow deck is the best deck in the game. This is easy mode for babies who just want to beat Gold Stake and nothing else. I mean, it's good. It's really, really good. Same with the checker deck. I think it's slightly worse than the yellow deck. But just, I mean, 26 spades, 26 hearts, it's doing all of the hard work for you. It's so good. But that's not to say that stuff like the Zodiac deck and perhaps, I don't know, the green deck or the painted deck, right, where you get, what is that, -1 Joker slot. I don't think these are bad decks. I just think you have to play them differently, right? And so, yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to say. I just wanted to put this video out there as a sort of, I don't want to say guide, but just as an explanation for how I approach these decks and why I think they're good or bad. Whether or not you should play them, I think you should play them. I think every deck offers a unique experience, and whatever deck is your favorite is the one you should play, right? I mean, unless you've unlocked everything and you want to start unlocking other stuff, but it's all up to preference. Do you like the Magic deck where you get 2 copies of the Fool and Crystal Ball? I don't, but I mean, if you do, all the power to you, right? Play this deck. You're gonna have fun doing it. But yeah, that's everything I had to say for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Just wanted to do a quick little video today, so thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you liked what you saw here, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.